All right, here we are again. So welcome if you joined me for the next live coding stream. Um, we are working on a bot using the Microsoft Bot framework, and we want to make it easier for people to um, add new skills or new dialogues to our bots. And in order to do that, we have created a custom connector for Logic apps and for Microsoft Flow. And using that, we can visually model the dialogues. And up until now, we had just very few options to do that. So today we are gonna expand our toolbox and add additional actions so that we can create more complex dialogues. And the last one that we were working on was a prompt action to prompt the user to enter some text. Um, well, we've come a long way last Monday, but there were just a couple of things left to do. And in the meantime, I've wrapped that up and I want to briefly show you what I've done and then move on to perhaps do some refactoring, but maybe also add additional action. So let's take a look. All right, I've also made some modifications to my stream to hopefully make the image that appears from my desktop less fuzzy. So if you have any feedback on that, please share it with me. It would be great to know if this works better or the previous one was better, so that I can change it. At least it should be less fuzzy, more clear right now. So hopefully that is the case. So let's take a look at our bot. First, I think I need to make sure that everything is still set up correctly. So let's see, it should still point to the test environment, which it is, and the only thing I believe I have changed is the custom connector. So let me reset it. Sure. Need to leave off the scheme here. Yeah. So that is back in the original state. All right, so this should be it. Then we can test it out here. Who is dsem for Excel, for example. Very cool. So it appears that our dialogue is still working. And the thing we've added previously, if, for example, the customer is not included with the intent, then it will ask us for the name of the customer, and we can type the name of the customer, and it will eventually reply with the same response. So this is cool. So how did we do it? First off, we needed to create an API for sending the prompt. And that is a action. I want it to be here. So in our, oh, it is in the custom connector, I'm sorry. So let's switch here. So here we have the custom connector. Let's go to the definition. Hi there, thanks for following or thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it. We're working on our bot today, and I'm just showing you how I created the prompt action. So if we look at the dialog in the Logic app, then we're talking about, let's see, ask the user about this particular action where we prompt the user with a question and then we get an answer back. And the interesting thing of this particular action is that it will keep the Logic app running all the while we are waiting for a response from the user. So basically it's creating a webhook subscription, or it's creating a webhook that we can call from our API to continue the Logic app. So what does that look like? Well, from our connector it looks pretty much like a regular action, and that's because the UI here does not support this webhook construction to be created, and we have to do this from code or from within the OpenAPI specification directly. So let me switch to the OpenAPI specification to show you how we've done that. So first, let me open the OpenAPI specification and we wait for the outline to load. And let's collapse everything. Then here we have the prompt action defined, and basically this part is the generic stuff. And what's interesting here is this particular thing. This tells the parameter, which is called webhook URI in my case, but you can name it whatever you want it to be, and you tell it that it's the XMS notification URL. There's some other stuff in here which I think is not necessary, but we can check that out right away. And the other thing that is interesting to point out is that it has this XMS notification content similarly to a webhook subscription, a webhook trigger, and which tells us in this case that we expect a message activity type to be sent back as a response to the webhook that was created. There's also this XMS no generic test, but I'm not really sure what this does. It's an undocumented attribute. I think this hasn't anything to do with the webhook subscription, but in order to validate, let's strip some stuff from this definition and update it in the custom connector and see if it keeps working. But this is the definition and what it looks like from within the API. So just switch back briefly. This is pointing to the prompt route. So that's API/prompt, and we have a prompt controller over here. So this needs to match up, of course. And we have here the HTTP post where we expect a prompt request, and the prompt request is defined in these parameters. So we have a parameter named webhook. In this case, the name is not really important, but this is more about the schema. The schema has a couple of properties. It has a webhook URI, which is internal, so it's not visible to the user, and this is the notification URL. And it has some other stuff which we don't use, but it also has a prompt and a conversation reference. And if we look at our prompt request model, you can see that it has this prompt, conversation reference, and webhook URI, which we call callback URI as a property. And I wanted the names to match up eventually, but for now they differ a little bit. Once we've received this prompt, we first get our conversation reference based on the conversation reference provided in the action. This allows us to set up or continue our conversation with the user, which we do here. So it's a little bit the other way around. So here we tell the adapter to continue our conversation, and we continue our conversation with this particular callback, which is similar to our reply. But what is different is that we reconstruct a dialog state here, and we do this so that when the user responds with a message, our bot thinks that it is within a specific dialog, so it will resume that dialog. And in order to make that work, we need to ensure that the root dialog is our main dialog, which is how we've set up our bot. And our main dialog has a child set of dialogues. And since we just want to resume our own particular dialog, we'll just add one additional dialog, and that is of type registered dialog. So eventually we will have a main dialog with in it a registered dialog, and we set the callback URI as the state. Then we update the dialog state within the Cosmos DB. So we set it, and then we save our conversation state changes so that the dialog state gets saved with our conversation state. And then we continue our conversation by sending the prompt that we've entered in the action. And that will eventually send a message to the user. And when the user types anything back, it will go through the regular process, and it will eventually end up in our registered dialog, in the continue dialog async over here. And we try to get the callback URI that should be set in our state. And then if we have the callback URI, we construct the payload and send it to the callback URI through a post. And that will actually resume our logic app. So what that looks like from a logic app perspective. So let's just try to who is the SAM, and we'll go to our logic app. So you'll notice that now we have a running instance of our logic app, and well, it's telling us it's running, but it actually sends this prompt to the user and is now waiting for the response. So if we open up this logic app instance, then we'll see that it's waiting here in this this action, this prompt action, and it will wait here more or less indefinitely until we respond as a user. So I can keep refreshing it. It will keep running until I say, well, so I say KLM, for example. And then when we check back, we can see that it's now completed. So that's how the prompt action works, and that's how you create a action with a webhook, which can be quite useful. Yeah, so going back to the prompt controller, I'm not entirely sure if I want to keep it this way, because first off, we have a lot of this stuff happening in multiple places, which also feels like a bit of overhead. We also have this conversation, reference getting, resuming, which is all pretty much the same. So we might want to refactor this to have some code reuse instead of code duplication. So that's one thing that we can take a look at. And the other thing, I want to add an additional action where we can ask the user for a choice of options instead of a free-form text. And I also want to take a look at, but maybe not today, if for whatever reason we can cancel out the response. So for example, if we are in the state where we prompt the user, so for example, who is the Sam? Let's type that again. So now we have a running logic app again, as we can tell here. But what if the user, for example, says log out in this case, which is an interrupt, and we can define additional interrupts, but this is I believe the only one that we currently support. Yeah. So if I type logout, the bot will sign out the user and basically quit the dialog. So if I were to say hi again, I need to sign in first. So we're actually starting a new dialog now. So I'm actually now chatting with the bot, but we're not in our dialog anymore, but still we have this running instance of our logic app, and this will never ever complete anymore because we lost the reference to the callback, and there's no conversation waiting for this callback anymore to complete. So in this case, I'll explicitly cancel it, but in a production scenario, we want to be able to quit this dialog. So we want to send somebody to our action so that it cancels. Not sure if that's possible, but eventually maybe throw an exception and then stop. That would be fine as well. But at least I do not want to have it running because that's very confusing. All right. Yeah, so maybe I'm not entirely sure how I want to refactor my prompt controller or controllers yet. So maybe it will get more clear when we add an additional prompt, but this time a choice prompt, because this is a text prompt, so we may even want to rename this as well. By the way, one thing that you perhaps noticed is that our bot is more conversational now. So if I say hi, it says hey back, but if I ask it questions for can you sing, for example, it will reply with some text. How old are you? Who created you? So I can ask different questions and the bot will respond to me. And the way we've set this up is by using the Q&A maker. Let me sign in. This is not the fastest web page. Let me open up my can of soda. So if I go into my knowledge base, you can see that I have all these Q&A sets, Q&A pairs, but I have not I've not created them manually. Luckily, there's an option to add a chit-chat dataset. So if you go to the settings of your Q&A, you can follow this link, chit-chat dataset. It will bring you to the bot builder personality chat and to the set of data sets. You can choose whatever personality you want. In my case, in this case, we've gone for the witty one, but you can use whatever personality fits best for your bot. You can copy the link to this file, which is a tab separated file, and then you go to the settings of your Q&A maker and you can add the URL to the dataset directly, which is quite useful, so you can easily refresh it. For example, if they've made updates to this file, you can just click this and then save so that it will be refreshed. I'm not going to do that right now. So the personality chat, I'm not sure if they've done any updates in the recent time. No. I believe there's also a personality chat in the works that's more advanced, which uses machine learning to even respond with more lifelike replies. So these replies are pretty static. And the other one will actually be able to reply based on the context that you are in, which is also kind of cool, but it's not available yet. But doing this, your bot will be more conversational right away. So that's easy to add and a quick win. Yeah, so let's take a look at the prompts. So bots builder prompts. So you have these. It's the Node.js version, the one I'm looking for. So let's give me a. Let's go to the .NET dialogues. No, they don't have any option. Yeah, well, anyway, let's go to the source code instead. So we'll go to, I don't want to go to the bot builder samples, but to the botbuilder.net, which is where the source code for the bot framework lives. And if we go to the libraries and then to the dialogues, this is where we have all these prompts. So right now we've actually created this text prompt, but we also want to have, for example, the confirm prompt or the choice prompt. Right now I'm interested in the choice prompt, so let's take a look at that. So the choice prompt actually allows us to can we see an example somewhere? Maybe Swami says as right, so here we have choices, choice prompts. This looks kind of old actually, from when 2018. It's for the V4, I think it's more advanced, but well, we'll check it out. Let's see. Yeah, I was expecting this kind of choices, actually buttons. So let's see if we can send a list of choices. First, I think we need to create, well, where should we start, with the API or with the open API specification? It is very similar. Oh, we were, okay. So let's see what of these properties we actually need for the webhook to function. So my thinking was that we don't need the filters, headers, and properties. So let's get rid of those. Load the OpenAPI spec and update the connector. And let's see, still pointing to, it's now pointing again to my local version. I just want to know if it works. Is this gonna work? No, this is not gonna work the way I want to. So let's make sure that it points to our test environments. Okay, so this is saved. Now, who is the SIM? So it prompts me. Is it still running? It's still running. So that still works. So I was right that we do not need to have the headers and stuff in here. I don't think we need to have this as well, so let's get rid of that. And again, let's update the connector. Oh boy. This has already automatically updated the host again, so I'll need to change that back. Let's create, for the fun, a nice demo workflow. We also have a demo dialog over here. So let's go here. Yeah, this is a nice example. Demo. So we now set demo, and as we can tell, it's indeed still running. All right, so we've narrowed it down to what we actually need. So the most important thing is this, the XMS notification content, and this XMS notification URL. That's what we actually need. But we want to create an additional prompt. So this actually was a text prompt. So let's rename this to text prompt. And let's rename this to choice prompt. We need to ensure that we update our code to match. So maybe we want to have all the prompts within a single controller. So let's get rid of the routes here. And let's put the route here, I believe. Can I template /API/text prompt. Call this text prompt. And now we'll duplicate this. For the choice prompt. Alright, we'll just leave it as is for now. And let's change this as well, because this is the text prompt requests. Text prompt requests. And we want to create an additional version, which is the choice prompt request. So still we need to have the prompts, the conversation reference and the webhook query. So maybe we can inherit this from the text prompt request. So as you can get rid of these. And we need an additional option, or we need a list of options. Yes, that's what we need. So we would have a list, string, choices. There we go. And this is a JSON property. I'd like to lowercase the JSON, but have it capital case for the property in C#, and that's the way that we can do it. Yeah, so now we have a list of choices that we can expect, which is a list of strings, and that's what we can define in our API. And let's see how they describe the choice prompts. Prompts the user inputs. Alright, we'll just leave it like this. So, operation ID prompt is not the best way to name it. So let's name this text prompts. Let's name this choice. These need to be unique. Also maybe your ideal moment to rename this to be callback query. Callback query. Yeah, and maybe I do not want to name this webhook, but name this. So we name this texts prompts requests, or just prompts requests, or just requests. It's fine. Let's do the same thing for our choice. So callback query. Callback query. And instead of just having a callback query, a prompt and a conversation reference, which is, by the way, is also required. So let's make sure we add it. We also want to have an array of choices. choice prompts. So we have a choices element, which is an array, and it has items of type string. Let's see. I believe that the description is relevant to the choices. Like so. Alright, so now this supports choices. Well, this should be it for basics. So let's go to our custom connector and import our updated definition. So we now have a text prompt and a choice prompt. The choice prompt has a request with a callback URI, a conversation reference, and a prompt. Choices key item. Maybe we want to add a description. Maybe not description necessarily, but at least title, choice. So let's import it. So now we have this request, and it now is named choice. Very cool. Let's update our connector, and in this case I'm fine with it being pointed to my local host. Let's also point our bot to our dev environment so that we can better test this. So we have ngrok running over here, still running, perfect. If I'm now here able to start my bot, alright, this is running. First, let me ensure that if I type in my bot that it will actually end up my local host. So it may take a few minutes to update. And as you can tell, it wasn't calling my bot locally. And it is now. Excellent. So my bot locally should just do the same as it would. Yeah. Excellent. So now, if I were to edit my demo, Let's add an action from. Alright, they both now say prompt for user inputs, which does not help that much. So let's rename it to make it better. Let's prompt user for a choice. For okay. Back here. Import. Updates. Wait for it to save. Make sure to reload the connector. Prompt user for text, prompt user for choice. So this is easier. All right, so because we have set it up to the choice to be an array, we can add multiple items here, which is kind of nice. So let's try and see what happens. What do you want on your pizza? Typical example. Or what kind of pizza do you like? Margarita, pepperoni, fungi, whatever. Save. So now let's make sure that we have set a breakpoint. Oh, nicely named, so let's fix that in a second. Oh, it is in the prompt controller where we need to be. Scroll down a bit. Set a breakpoint here. Alright, so the choices will not be used yet, but let's see if we receive them at least. So now if I say demo, we end up in our choice prompt, and we still receive a text prompt requests, so that's not going to work. Sorry, this is so correct, but we need to change this to the choice prompt request, and we had an invalidly named file over here, so let's fix that. And then let's go to our logic app, cancel this one because we will never get back to it. And then try again. And here we are again. This time we should have a request with the 3 options that I entered in the action. Perfect. And this time, instead of simply prompting the user, so did this work? Oh yeah, we just did a send activity in this case. We may want to prompt the user. So we can actually construct the activity ourselves, so not using the prompt dialog of the bot framework, but it would be nice if we could use the prompts themselves, wouldn't it? So how could we do that? Can we do a resume? So we are continuing our conversation. It will actually give us a turn context. And within the turn context, we can construct our dialog state. Context dot. How does it work within our bots? We just do dialog.run async. We do not have the dialog here. We can, of course, create an instance. We do this as well. Our prompt controller. So now we should have access to our dialog. Okay, so this is going to try to run our dialog based on this registered dialog. How could we tell it to prompts? So this will get into our maybe we do not need to do this. And also the good thing would be that we this will take us, I believe, here. Here, that is. On this prompts. Let's run this. Okay. So now I'm gonna say demo. This is going to prompt me. Failed. Ooh. It is running. $404. And what's that cent? Why is it saying not found? Slash API slash choice prompt. Let's relaunch it. What's up with this? Able to match key. Where did I see that before? What is this? What is this? Why is it posting to HTTP? It should go to HTTPS. Huh? Maybe that's because it's transformed by NGRock.
spot where you can see the city lights and the cliff drops up. I've got unfinished business there with the statues up on the wall. How you gonna sit there like your shit don't stink while I was underage, scared, being offered a drink? You saw everything that night through your eyeballs made of stone. You didn't care at all. I thought that if I asked nicely or politely, I'd get a bit of quiet in my mind. I'm writing major big letters in the street, baby. A neon SOS is glowing in the streets, baby. But I never get that lucky. I'm still struggling to pick the pieces up after this bomb. I think I have cracked the code for this pain, baby. Been in the dark, but now I think I finally know. I can see clearly now the karma's lazy. I can see clearly now what I've been chasing. I can see clearly now the time I'm wasting. I can see clearly
Why is it not found?
less lazy. Bad things don't always happen to bad people. Forces that be, please get
Ah,
check evil. My hair's
must
falling
have
out.
something to do
It's
with
like this kid.
this.
His loving wife who won't know what he did. Each day I'm getting more distant and shy while he's out there living an untarnished life. Would I be glad if he ceased to exist? No, I'd still be fucked up. I wouldn't care at all. I thought that if I asked nicely or politely, I'd get a bit of quiet in
Controller
my
can
mind.
probably
I'm
not
writing
be a
major big letters
generic.
in the street, baby. A neon SOS is glowing in the streets, baby. But I never get that lucky. I'm still struggling to pick the pieces up after this bomb. I think I have cracked the code for this pain, baby. Been in the dark, but now I think I finally know. I can see clearly now the karma's lazy.
But we can
I can see clearly
use
now
this
what
structure
I've been chasing. I can see
because we
clearly
still
now
know
the time I'm
anyway what
wasting.
type the main dialogue is.
I can see clearly now the karma's lazy. A neon SOS is glowing in the streets, baby. I finally know. Don't ever come this way. And if you do, I guess I'll tell them what you've done, baby.
Ah, that's more like it. Okay, so now we have this dialogue. Can we actually run it? Yes, we can. So now it ends up here. We do get this dialogue. Uh, we have this parent. Oh, we have this stack here. Parent, also a stack. This should be the main dialogue probably. And it would be good if we could start a new dialogue here. Uh, in this case, we do not have a callback URI. We may not need it anymore. So what if instead of this callback URI, we would add a prompt. So what if we were to create a prompt? Prompt is new. Choice prompt initializes a new instance of choice prompt class. Name of choice prompts. No, we do not want to validate it. So and we could do a begin dialog. We could set the choice options. We can we send a dialog ID type name of choice prompt. And then in the register dialog, we can add and we'll do it in the main dialog. Add dialog. So type that's probably how we want to name it. So now we can add a dialog, new choice prompts, name of choice prompts. Then continue. Let's try to have that continue to work. Dialog ID. So when we have this dialog ID, get the dialog ID. Um, and the options. Let's see, how do we need to use this? Jesus, come on. Choice factory options. Come on. Choice prompts. Samples, core. Users for inputs. Is that new? Yeah, 15 days ago. Come on, you're not even using choice
Some say
prompts.
it's difficult to find, and the words they just stay inside. How about you start at the beginning? You woke up, go on, I'll listen. Is life like this? Pen to paper alone like this? Is this how they'll see me when I'm gone? Then should I dismiss my real thoughts to protect my kids? Or should I let them see my weaknesses? How will they remember me when I'm gone? Should I let them see my weaknesses? How will they remember me when So I record the same, the wild and mundane. 'Cause I'm a whole person like they'll be too. I'll tell the truth when I was wrong, and what I sacrificed to be strong. I'll write everything, come in the way.
It's a bit ugly. I want first to know that it's working.
As I look back to with a warmer heart at the younger girl I once was. My journal's like a lame book to my brain. So reach out to it, cross the gate. 'Cause everything I am is safe here in my mind. Someone told me that I couldn't be myself. I would be me even more through my Get a grip on my soul as you read on. It's harder to love me now that you can arrange all my flaws. Category, time, date, and cause. Get about halfway and pause. It's not worth it, there are so many more. I've been greedy and selfish and borderline reckless. I mostly broke promises. I
So,
told myself till I could feel no more breath. I'd be better than this, I'd be better than this. Only managed to disappoint myself. No one knows, so they can't force me to look for help. It's a cycle I've repeated. It knows so well, but it's secret. Can you keep it? It's dark out, I sit in bed. I feel asleep, dog in my eyes. Still awake this late at night. A day done and nothing to write. Some say it's difficult to find, and the words they just stay inside. How about you start at the beginning? You woke up, go on, I'll listen.
prompt async.
It's dark out, I sit in bed. I feel asleep, dog in my eyes. Still awake this late at night. A day done and nothing to write. Some say it's difficult to find, and the words they just stay inside. How about you start at the beginning? You woke up, go on, I'll listen. Is life like this? Pen to paper alone like this? Is this how they'll see me when I'm gone? Then should I dismiss my real thoughts to protect my kids?
DC
Or should I let them see my
options.
weaknesses? How will they remember me when I'm gone?
Cancellation token.
Should I let them see my weaknesses? How will they remember me when So I record the
Cancellation
same,
token.
the wild and mundane. 'Cause I'm a whole person like they'll be too. I'll tell the truth when I
Right, let's see what it does. So basically we're now trying to prompt the user. Would be interesting.
Someone told me that I couldn't be myself. I would be me even more through my doubt.
Right. Let's see. Okay, we end up in the choice prompt. Now we end up here. We find the dialog. If it is a choice dialog, we get the options, and then we prompt. Nice. Not sure why we end up here again, but we'll figure that out Monday. Right, let's wrap it up for today. Good stuff so far. So, alright, I've briefly shown you today how to do that prompt action, how to use the webhook action type so that the logic app or flow will remain running and waiting for a response. And after that we went looking into creating the choice prompt and base that on the text prompt. And well, we've been able to send out the prompt using the prompt, the choice prompt built-in dialog from the bot framework. But the dialog state is a bit messed up, so we'll figure out why that happens in the next stream. So thanks for watching and take care, and until next time. Okay.